Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to go over this update to the tier list that we made on our podcast a few weeks ago. This list represents my personal opinions of the current meta. This is bound to change a lot. If you watched that video, you'll notice already that there's quite a few big jumps. And so I'll dive right into what I think some of those are. The first is that I overvalued new, and I think that that comes from an over reliance on OpenCC on Talishar. You don't get to play all. You don't get to play all of the relevant matchups when you are limited to OpenCC. A lot of people are testing new heroes and want to get those games in, which means I was seeing a lot of new from the perspective of someone trying to figure out Zen. And that matchup is not particularly good for Zen, especially when you want to keep a full hand and they have ways of pulling cards out of your hand and banishing cards. Um, I found that matchup to be pretty rough. I'm also on a Bonds of Ancestry Zen list, so there were a lot of times where I just couldn't really play the cards I wanted to because they would just fuel new for later. So I think I over evaluated where new would be. Um, and I'm happy to say that she's got some tough matchups. And I think that the number one matchup that is going to be hard for her is Azalea. Azalea, I currently see as at the top of the meta. There's a lot of heroes that can't handle her disruptive abilities or her evasion. We've seen these lists that are almost entirely not dependent on running any blues other than knock the death whistle, which new will get no value out of. Um, and I feel like Azalea has always been in this place where she's great in the meta, but Dromai kept her out of converting more often. And I think that there's a lot of appeal to these Mistveil heroes for players who are looking for something new. And I think Azalea is favored into each and every one of them. Maybe not the case with Enigma, but there are the unpreventable damage arrows. So I don't know that she'll really give Azalea all that much trouble. Now, we put Levia, I believe, in B or C tier. Um, First, I should say that I've added an additional tier to this list. We did not have D tier. We just went straight for O3 drop tier. I felt that it was important to add an additional tier because it was getting very crowded in A and B, and I wanted to differentiate some of these, the level I think these heroes are going to perform at. Um, so Levia, um, she's S tier. Um, I see a lot of people saying that Zen is this S tier hero because of the crazy pop off turns that Zen can have. If you believe that, you should think that Levia is better because there's a lot less that needs to go right for Levia to do the same things that Zen does in terms of damage output. And the reason I feel confident in saying that is that Zen often needs 5 to 6 cards, where Levia can get by on 3. Levia can set up with an agile windup. Levia has a better mid range game because you want to be banishing cards from your graveyard. So when you can block is pretty good. Zen doesn't really have those things as much. Zen really needs to draw the right cards, cards that draw cards, and those cards need to be the right cards. And I think that Zen's definitely more powerful than where I had him, which was at the very bottom, the very, very bottom. And I'll go into that in a minute. But Levia also got Shadow Realm Horror. I played a few games against Shadow Realm Horror recently, and that card is as good as everyone has been theorizing it will be. It's insane. So I think Levia is just one of the top dogs right now. Um, KO didn't really get much new, but we did get those armory decks a while back, and KO was at the top of the meta before that. I think he'll do fine. I think he'll stay at the top of the meta. We were all, you know, creating these nightmare scenarios on Twitter or in our discords or in heads where we were saying, KOLLs a week after the armory deck comes out. So I don't think there's any reason to believe that KO is suddenly not one of the best decks, not a very playable hero. Um, if you have not had the privilege of playing against Victor Goldmane, going turn 0 Goldmane Estate, turn 1 Goldmane Estate, turn 2 Goldmane Estate, let me tell you, it is an absolute, I don't want to say it's a nightmare. That card is disgusting, right? I think honestly for ninjas the matchup got more playable. I feel pretty good in that, but pro player Matthew Feeney, who will be making his way to Amsterdam to win the Pro Tour Amsterdam, who so generously gave his time to the show for an interview, has shown me personally just how insanely powerful Victor can be and incredibly consistent. There are bad matchups. Enigma's probably not the best matchup for Victor. As always, Guardians kind of have difficulty with illusionists that create a board state. But I think that Victor is just going to be good enough into the field overall that I feel pretty good saying Victor's top of A. Azuri, I have a little bit harder time figuring out exactly where Azuri would be because I think some of the stealth cards are not all that relevant, but I do think that the ability to her hero ability is getting better as we get more 6 power cards, and I think that Azuri is another hero that I would say, Dromai was keeping out of being in the top. Kano's not a great matchup for Azuri, but I feel that we're really going to see what some of these players are capable of doing on Azuri. Some of these that have been, you know, around for a while. The bonds of the new bonds card for her, and just the Nick are cards that I don't know if she runs, but I'm certain that people have tested with it, and if they found any success and the list has improved at all, then I feel pretty confident that she's top of A. I don't want to take too much time going over the whole list, but I will just briefly say about Enigma. Enigma is not the monster that people are making her out to be. Enigma is really good, and I think maybe I'll regret saying this, but pretty healthy for the game. If we just let, I don't know, if we don't have any heroes that kind of slow the game down, aggro decks just go crazy, or I don't know. I think if you had the choice between playing against Prism 3 and Prism 3 was just Prism 2 with 40 life, or Enigma, and you would rather play against Prism, I could not disagree with you more. I think Enigma is a much more playable matchup. I think just gets absolutely hosed by certain heroes. I'm feeling pretty good about Enigma. Strong hero, but it's going to be interesting to see where she lands. I feel good about this right now, though. Dorinthia is the best warrior by far, and my hot take is that Dawnblade is probably just as good as Hatchets. Right now, there is the card that targets a Dawnblade from Dusk Till Dawn that gives its damage unpreventable. So I do think there will be lists that have maybe a switch package. I don't really know Warrior all that well, so you can let me know in the comments if you think what I'm saying sounds crazy or really poorly informed, um, and just generally say mean stuff to me there. Um, but I think that there's definitely a world where Dory has a switch build to get around unpreventable damage. Obviously, we saw that Hatchets was just great value. And I think that a strong mid range game is really important right now. I think heroes that are able to block with 2 cards and send 12 damage back are just so far uh, better positioned than my favorite class, ninjas, who just take all the damage and then send back anywhere between, 12 to 24. And that variance ranges pretty wildly. So Dash is great. Dash will always have the ability to keep your opponents guessing what you're going to present. I don't really want to go too deep into why I think Dash is a great pick, but basically, if you're an aggro deck, good luck against Teklo Pounder. They've got the advantage racing you. If you need to get a certain hand, for example, Zen, or if you don't have blocks, for example, Zen. So I think Dash is in a great place in those matchups. I think being able to play the long game, she's also pretty favored. Prism is still very good. Still has some weaknesses, mainly her life total being 32 is a detriment. She's certainly not S tier. Um, though when you play against a good Prism player, a great Prism player, you will absolutely feel that it is an unwinnable match. And that's why Twitter exists. You go on there to uh, rage and spew your hatred for illusionist, and that feeds illusionist players. That's what sustains them. That's what they eat. um let's talk a little bit about Kasai. As I mentioned, any hero that has a strong mid-range game, I think, is in a good position. She also has a good matchup into um, new, in that she's not a blue heavy deck, and most of her cards cannot be used as new. They care about target sword or axe, or maybe they care about target weapon, but I think that if you've already activated a new's ability, the chance that you are swinging a dagger just to be able to pump it by 1 and give it go again is not all that enticing. Um, but like I said, I do think New is very strong, so I have her right below Kasai. Uh, Moving into Kano. Kano's in an interesting place. I could see Kano being higher than this. I don't see him being much lower than this. I know that people have mixed feelings about Kindle. I can't speak to it at all. I have not played against it. I have not played with it. I know what the card does only because I looked it up this morning. But I do think Kano is always a strong pick. And right now, I have played several games against Kano recently. I was able to win them, but it was very close. I played as Zen, and that was a matchup that just felt like, well, it. I'll get into that with Zen. So let's move into Katsu. So Katsu's in this position where I don't know if anything will ever really top the Bonds of Ancestry list. And I'm a bit disappointed with that from the perspective of a ninja player after part the Mistveil, not getting new combo lines that played into the same archetype and allowed you to maybe switch lines midway through a chain is a little bit disappointing. It's sort of what I love about Katsu. I really want to be able to present a combo line and switch on a dime and just keep my opponent guessing. But right now, I think you just anticipate its bonds of ancestry. I've played a lot of Kitty Katsu. I really like Kitty Katsu. It's one of the most fun decks I think to play, just because for me, I want to go as wide as possible on the combat chain. That to me is a lot of fun. But I do think that Katsu didn't get all that much better. The reason why Katsu is still the best ninja, as I mentioned, is how I'm prioritizing mid range gameplay. Katsu is the best mid range ninja. Filling your graveyard for Bonds of Ancestry turns is a totally valid early game strategy. You have cards that block fairly well. You only run 3 no blocks. You have your flick flacks. There's a lot of things that I think Katsu has in the defensive department that I don't see coming from our other heroes. So Bolton is next. I think that Bolton is a great pick. I've been playing a build of Bolton that relies a little bit more on vigors, and it's really interesting. I think Bolton will likely be A tier after the Armory deck. The defense reaction specifically, I think, is nuts. I really like the headpiece. I never really gelled all that much with the Warband of Bologna, so I'm really looking forward to where we see Bolton go in the next couple of months. Now, Zen, obviously, this is the one that I think I was the most wrong on. I said Zen is just a trash, unplayable hero. And it seems to be that there's only 2 perspectives that I'm seeing, that Zen is this insane, unbeatable hero, or that he's trash. And the truth lies somewhere in the middle, as is often the case. I will tell you that I either average 19 value per turn cycle as Zen or 6. There's really the games just feel like you either did the damn thing, you either had it or you didn't. And when it comes to the testing that people have done, this is one of those matchups that I feel like the same thing I said about new could be applied, where people are over prioritizing the games they've played in OpenCC. A lot of the matchups that I think are going to be very difficult for Zen, the ones that involve inertia, the ones that are evasive or that they have big attacks. I mean, Riptide and Azalea are absolutely going to dominate Zen, I feel. I think that people haven't played those matchups as much. And it seems that people are aware that those are bad matchups, but they're playing into maybe other slightly aggressive decks and they're getting what they need to just pop off. And they're like, wow, this is an insane hero. Look, I just presented 100 damage. And it's got me in a place where I think Zen is the Ninja Kano. However, just because Kano has 30 health doesn't really make him more fragile than Zen, which is maybe a crazy thing to say. But if you're running 12 no block cards, let's say you run 6 cards, we'll call it 9. You run 6 cards that transcend, you run 3 Art of Wars. That's 9 no blocks, okay? If each of those is valued at 3 block in Kano, that's 27 points of value that you could use on defense. So that's rough for Zen. The other thing is that Kano has the ability to do arcane damage. I don't know if you heard about this, folks. Arcane damage is harder to deal with than physical damage, specifically in a meta where we still have these absolute fridge units of equipment suites. So I think that Zen, one of the things I was disappointed about with Mistveil was that we didn't really get generic. Not we didn't really. We did not definitively get new generic ninja equipment. Specifically, they did not get better at blocking at all. Other than Zen's chest piece is, better block value than Tunic. Hardened cross straps doesn't block. I don't believe Vest of the First Fist blocks. I don't even know if any still run it. It's a great chest piece. It really is. And that Zen State token, huge. Very, very valuable. I thought at first, like, I know that I think Zen State token is easily the best token in the game, but do I really want to be breaking this if I'm losing out on this value? Yes, absolutely. The Zen State token is huge in his games. It's phenomenal, and the headpiece is the best in slot. You could not have convinced me the first 3 days that we had saw that headpiece that Zen even ran it. I thought it was garbage, but as I'm comparing it to Kano, it's Storm Striders for ninjas. It lets you do the thing, but it lets you do several things. It lets you do the Mystic Beast, the card that lets you name cards anything you want. Name Crouching Tigers any card you want. It's really fun if you don't have anything. Just name a hero. You can do that. You can name Cracked Bauble. I wouldn't do that. I would keep the opponent guessing anyway. But so you can enable that. You can enable Orahan. That headpiece is best in slot, and it's going to be hard to convince me otherwise at this point. I was really, really low on it, but after testing, it's pretty great. Dio, Dio's a tough one. I don't really know where it goes. It's a great aggro deck, but I'm hearing about combo decks with Nitro Mechanoid, and I don't know enough about Dio to adequately say where she lands. But when I played her, I had some really fun games, and I thought she was a really strong hero. I do think that having 36 life is a bit punishing. But anyway, let's move on to the hero that you may say has the most life in the game, Olympia. You might say that because Olympia got visit the Golden Anvil, a really cool card. Opens up an entirely new space for Olympia that allows you to get back equipment. That's phenomenal. I'm excited to see where Olympia goes. I don't think we've gotten to the point where we can say that it's A tier, but I think there are strong players who could bring a dark horse deck to nationals and make the top 8 on Olympia. I think that's totally reasonable to expect. Maybe not expect, but it could totally happen. That card is really good, and there's a lot of things you could do with it. So I think Olympia is now solidly in the B tier. He's not a trash hero anymore. But, the wager mechanic is inherently risky. I don't think that... I do still think he's the worst warrior, but we will see what people are able to present. Rhinar is just, in my opinion, the worst brute, obviously, in there. And I have not had a problem into Rhinar in a CC game in quite a while. I don't know if it's because I feel comfortable in the matchup, if it's because intimidating ninjas doesn't always matter, if I'm just going to throw my hand back. But I'm pretty low on Rhinar, and that might seem weird with how high I am on the other brutes. But please let me know where Rhinar deserves to be in the comments, because I don't know. Riptide is next. Riptide's in a good space. Riptide got a good new card, but I don't think you'll run many of them. Um, Very cool to get traps back, especially if you can get a legendary trap. I mean, if you can get Spike Pit or Collapsing Trap, that is huge. I forget what the other one is. But those are definitely incredible traps to have two of in a game. But I think Riptide's in a really good place. Riptide has I know I have them like in C tier, but Riptide's a really good deck. I just feel that the other decks are better. I feel that the other decks might be a little bit more soft. I think there are several high archetypes for Riptide, and I think that I feel best about the aggro one. Um, and I don't know that the aggro one has what it takes to really compete against these heavy warriors and Victor, but I don't know the hero all that well. So again, this is a hero that I encourage you to say mean things to me in the comments about. Vincent is getting better. We love you, Vincent players. I love you guys. I love this eloquent eulogy. Do we really believe that Vincent has gotten out of C tier, though? No, I don't. Um, I think it's an incredible card. I just don't think it's not doing enough for me to warrant this being a hero that's in A or B. And the reason is blood debt. Blood debt is a bitch. Blood debt will kill you in a game. And it's really great to be able to get this momentum back and really just kind of keep the pressure on. But ultimately, I just think that, as Vince said, I'm still running into situations where I'm dying of blood debt or I am unable to activate Vincent's ability. And that card, it's not underperforming. It's just not giving enough gas to make it overpowered. Now, speaking of gassing up on Max, the Hype Nitro, I'm guzzling up gas for Max Nitro in that I think Supercell is a good card. Pretty good. It's kind of cool. I played against a Max Nitro recently that generated like 11 resources. Here's the thing Moonshot is ass. Moonshot is a bad card. Max needs one card that gets plus X and doesn't require you to break everything you own, right? If you can give Max that, insane hero. I mean, really, like you can make a really strong engine and just absolutely go off. However, I will say my experience as Max um, is as a Banksy enjoyer. I said be mean to me in the comments before, but if you're a Max the Hype Nitro player, this time go easy on me. I like Banksy. I know you guys hate it. I know you guys would absolutely love to just get rid of that card entirely. Just go easy on me. Be nice to me. I like that card. Um, so now we can just sort of cover the rest of the heroes real quick. Um, these heroes are the heroes that I think don't have what it takes to compete. And I'm actually, I'm willing to say that I'm probably wrong about Viscerai, right? I'm probably wrong about Viscerai. There's a couple different ways to build Viscerai. There's OTK, there's Turtle Burst, there's like this mixed aggro kind of build. And I don't really know how to evaluate them, but I do think that the Turtle Burst and the OTK are maybe worse than they were a month ago. I think they're worse than they were. Um, I don't exactly know how Nu's ability to banish cards functions in that matchup. I do think Zen is just. You can't play OTK against Zen. You just can't because, I mean, yes, they have to have Chi in their hand. But if you're trying to build up 52 rune chants and then send them against Zen while mitigating all the damage he's throwing, and then you say, this is the turn, now's the time, and you send it, and they just say, nah, hit your Chi, create a Zen state. I'm not taking any damage. That's your whole game gone. I mean, it's up to you if you want to finish the game out at that point. But if I'm playing Zen and you send 50 some rune chants at me and I just hit a Zen state and you don't concede, I'm gonna think you're stalling for time. Because you're not coming back. Unless you already managed to pick me down a bit. But if you're an OTK build, that's not likely. Bravo and Betsy, they're not trash. They're just not really in a place where they're keeping up. I don't see how they could ever be better than Victor right now. Other than, I mean, yes, the evasive abilities are good, and I mean, I've had a lot of matchups into Bravo that I think he's A tier hero, but right now I just I'm gonna be honest. This one I think is a bit of a hive mind thing for me. I hear people talk about how bad Bravo is, how dead Bravo is, and I'm just kind of trusting that. I, as a Katsu player, will always kind of feel that that is an uphill battle. So I'm kind of sourcing from the community here on this. Now let's take a moment and honor our fallen hero, Vi. He's the first hero since I've been in the game to hit the opposite of Living Legend. He's out of the game. But he did not LL. He just died. Because gravekeeping exists. Because new exists. I mean, Vi is in a really rough place. And his best matchup is Teklevasan. I think that's his best matchup. You know, I know as Katsu, Teklevasan is. It feels pretty free. I can just get there before they can, and even when they do hit that singularity, I crawl back. I got that dog in me. If you watch this long, please comment in the comments below if you have that dog in you. If you've got that dog in you, give me a bark bark. Give me a little woof woof in the comments. But yeah, I mean, I don't really feel the need to touch on Arachne or Teklevasan too much. Now, just to quickly say about Arachne, yes, the stealth cards do banish cards, and that can fulfill a contract if you have Go again. That's cool. There are new reactions and new, you know, the majestic cards for Assassin are cool, but I don't really, you know, it's kind of tough to, I think, present a strong fatigue list in Arachne, which seems like what they want to be doing. I do think playing a stealth card into coercive, or sorry, a contract card into coercive tendency into one of those stealth cards, and you could maybe pump it with the reactions to get it to that point where you banish a card from their hand and all cards in their deck with the same name. Like, there are cool lines. Arachne's fun to play. Arachne's a cool hero. Arachne's just not a meta contender, and that's okay. And I'll end this video by saying this. Teklevasan is a hero in flesh and blood. Thanks for watching, guys. Do me a favor, give us a like and a subscribe. It helps. You've heard YouTubers say it before. You'll hear it again. We really appreciate you watching, and we will see you in the next one. And by we, I mean me, but also maybe Bryce and Chris. They do the podcast. Watch the podcast. All right, bye, guys.